All right, hello. What's good? I actually forgot about my food on my laptop. What do I do with this? I'll just put it right here. Okay, so there's a lot that went down. I do have finals. I'm supposed to do econ right now. I'm probably gonna do that in a little bit, but I'm gonna give some updates. I'm gonna do all that. First off, what's up, stream? What's good? I don't know if anyone's gonna be watching this. I don't care. I really don't. That's not the purpose of this. It's for me, actually, me specifically. If I ever wanted to compile a video or something like that, then I can quip a few jokes and like go through everything. And why am I getting thirst trapped in YouTube, bro? I'm not even signed in. This is what people look at before they've signed into their algorithm. Can AI beat Elden Ring? Chat GPT versus Gemini, which build is the best? So they're gonna make a build on Elden Ring. Minecraft versus 2 terabytes of RAM. Why am I? Gabe Newell defines fun. Oh, you know what? This is actually relevant to what I'm looking at. I might watch that real quick, but I do need to go to stream. Hold on. I'm getting distracted on a video because my ADHD. Chill out. Oh, and I have no volume. Dang it, dude. Why can't I hear this? Is it because of my headphones? No, it's excuse me? Reload. Okay, I'm just gonna watch this. Oh, okay, that's a pretty nice video. I watched the closed caption of it, but I need to hear this real quick. Oh. My YouTube was muted, which makes a lot of sense. I would just mute my computer, but it's fine. It's whatever. I don't care. So I actually ran up with something. I was watching Rat's stream first off. Let's minimize this. I'm probably not going to look at chat again. I was watching Rat's stream and I was like, dang, dude, what can I do? Because I was playing. Let's get this all the way back. All right. RL Craft kind of was a botch. All right. I did eventually add MCA, but at that point I was just like, why? This is for 1.12. I want to play 1.20. So I was thinking, you know what? Let's get MCA Reborn and Create Mod and put them both together. So I looked at Create Mod. Ultimate Guide to the Create Mod, watched about 5 minutes. It says 37 seconds, but I didn't even get through like the 5-minute mark where he was describing the water wheel or whatever. And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get food soon. I'm just gonna set up the stream here. I watched another, I guess, 15 minutes from the 30-minute mark. And it was quite blaringly obvious to me that that they were gonna add systems for spaceships and for planets and stuff like that with multiple spaceships. They said maybe, maybe not, but they wanted to aim for a more storytelling game, which implies to me that they're just going to use that spaceship or one spaceship. They made it in a nature that required them to just not have physics objects. And if they did, they'd probably have the physical object and then the no. If they had the physics object be the other spaceships, then when the main spaceship turns, then the other spaceships are also going to turn when they're not supposed to. So I don't know. What if they had like a mothership that had other little spaceships? You know, it's so weird. It doesn't make any sense. And then like, what if you're trying to make repairs outside of the spacecraft and then it turns, you know? You could be directly attached to it. I'm sure they'd make a system for that, but would you keep the same inertia? If the spaceship turns out of nowhere, you turn with it. With a space station, this wouldn't be an issue, but if you turn on the thrusters of a spaceship while someone is out there, like an astronaut that's detached from the spaceship, then they're gonna move away from that astronaut because the astronaut doesn't carry the inertia with them. And in a space game like this, there's inertia in the outside space that's always being converted. So it makes no sense. What does it mean then? I don't know. But what I do know is that after searching through his stuff, I saw something with adding a giant airship to Minecraft to trap an entire server. And I was like, whoa, that thing's tilted. Does that mean that this is also tilted? I played it.
Is the free.
And it's got a gyroscope. And it's an entity. It's not even a physics. It's not even like, it doesn't tilt. It does not tilt. It has blocks inside of it. It doesn't tilt. Oh my, wait, it does tilt.
Unprepared for a fight, my plan had backfired, but
Wait
little
a
did I
minute.
know.
Oh. But I'm sure that they're falling off. And... Oh. Wait. They fell out of it.
Block up the entrance.
Oh my goodness! Jesus Christ!
Don't copyright me, by the way. It was a separate world inside of the airship, which is intelligent, and I'm glad they fixed it thereof in the other tutorial. But I want something, or that they fixed something like that in this. I knew that you can't use a system where you're only making a spaceship dimension without the other space stuff, but he did it so that the render pipeline would move around the world and not the world move around the render pipeline. That's so weird. All right, that's both probably the same thing. What I'm talking about is that he made the spaceship static instead of a physics object, and we want to make ours a physics object. There's a few complications that come with this, though. We're going to talk about that later. First off, I went to this. Oh, yeah, here's the complications. Actually, we're just going to talk about it now. He's done a variety of different things here. He built a rocket ship and went to space. First off, that's pretty nice. And second off, when he built his aircraft carrier, where is that part? He built a working, functioning aircraft carrier, right? So we're going to go first with this. He builds the rocket with the Cosmic Horizons mod or something like that. I cannot remember, but he goes into this new dimension and you can see like he's in a different orientation, but he is sitting in a chair. So no matter what orientation he has, see, he has a different orientation that's going this way and that's going this way. He's sitting in a chair, so then if he stood up and tried to move around, he would be oriented in a different direction, which really sucks because that was really the point that I wanted to get. Like, oh, you can go through the cabin and be like really close up to everything and like move around in a custom gravity, but that wasn't the case. And then I was like, okay, well, he built a carrier. At least there's got to be custom gravity there, since, you know, the carrier has to bounce through waves and water. Don't judge me, right? It was only in the middle of the video after he turned off the static into regular physics and the carrier started bobbing. And I mean, you understand that Minecraft water is flat, so it's not going to bob, but it did over time
This is
become more buoyant. I can't remember where that happened. He was at the bottom of the ship and kind of just made it float. I don't remember where that was at. Oh, I think it was that part, maybe. I don't know. I don't remember. Here we go. I think this is the part.
And also we are
Oh yeah. See, look.
okay, we're floating
And it has water physics, but when you try to move around with all the planes and render distance, look,
interesting. When the game is
lag.
calculating a lot of physics entity collisions, as in when it's moving, all of them become slowed down a lot.
That part exactly is what the issue is for me. It's like, okay, I'm gonna have like a lot of space stations in the same world that need to calculate together. How can I figure that out? And they're all going to be physics entities, especially for the fact that they're going to be physics entities. All right. That's going to be an issue. It's really going to be an issue. And I don't know. I think it has to do with the colliders. But it could also be the calculations in the game itself. I don't know. I don't know how it works, but we need to find a way to do it very performatively that works for a game like this. I have no idea how to fix it. I don't have experience with that. And he's in a chair as well. Don't get any ideas or questions, but you can see like this is the issue that we're going to run into. But the idea of custom gravity actually comes into two multifaceted ideas. The first part that I found out was, I'm going to actually search on YouTube right now, Minecraft gravity mod, right? And I mean, you see, I'll actually use the Technoblade video, destroying friendships.
All right, gather around, guys. We're here to play the greatest.
And as you see, the different friends have different gravities, where they use this anchor thing. This is the Minecraft gravity mod, as you know. But it changes the gravity and it orients the player in a certain direction, and then it has a little bit of an animation, which is super cool, but it doesn't have effective gravity when it does that. What does happen though is that right after their animation changes to the rotation that they need to be at, they start falling. One way that I want to tackle this is that, okay, if this has custom gravity, like if this has custom angles, like you can do it at a 45-degree angle, for example, and be on the sharp edges of the blocks instead of like the flat surface. This works perfect. All you need to do is get the orientation of the object itself, and based off of that orientation, make the gravity go down from that orientation, and boom, you just have local gravity. The second thing, that actually kind of pairs with this first thing, but that's the second idea. If I can't figure that out, then I need to figure out what does gravity. I'm probably going to use that mod to figure it out. Like, okay, if that's what changes gravity, then great, right? I'm sure Minecraft wouldn't be playable on a 75-degree gravity. It just doesn't make any sense. But what I do know is that I'm thinking so hard right now, brother. I'm thinking so hard. I looked at videos about about gravity, and I was like, you know what? What does any other game designer do when they're faced with a game design issue? And they profusely look up the answers and then copy it line for line. And I was like, okay, I looked it up on Minecraft first, and I'm like, this is giving me absolutely nowhere. It got me to that mod, and that was about it. I was like, how to change gravity in Minecraft? And they just used that or nothing at all. No one has really done something like this. So I was like, okay, well, if you can't find it in this area, you got to look in different areas. I'm like, what do I have experience with? I was like, I'm not going to look in Stack Overflow for Minecraft stuff. I'm not going to look in an API for Minecraft modding. So what would I do? The answer was to not use Minecraft at all. It was to look it up on Unity, because I have experience with Unity. Now, it gave me an Unreal Engine video that trumped everything else. And we all know Unreal Engine. Let me just show you. Let me just show you what aberrations you find. That freaking blueprint, bro. Ugh, ew, bro. Ew. It's not real programming, bro. It's not real. These are for animators, bro, when they make renders of or PBR textures, man. And I know Unity has the blueprint stuff for their rendering as well, but I've never wanted to learn blueprint for programming or for code. It's stupid. It's useless. And it probably performs like jack. I mean, Unreal is not known for its performance. It's just known for its high fidelity graphics. So of course it would use blueprints. But at the same time, it's way bigger than just game design. It takes a lot more than just game design to run Unreal. And having blueprint for their rendering effects, for their motion effects, and everything of the sort makes a lot of sense. So it's fine. It's whatever. At least Marvel can make Marvel movies, but I was not happy about that. So, but they have the general idea in place. He explains it in pseudocode very well before actually implementing it into here. He has a planet control, and I was like, well, why was I thinking about just the spaceship controller when you could change gravity for a planet controller? It does the same exact thing. So at the same time, here is the Unity version. And I was like, dang, simple spaceship, variable gravity, that looks great. An hour and 4 minutes for changing gravity. This guy did it in like 5 minutes. Yeah, but he achieves exactly what he's looking for. And this is what I'm looking for as well. When you fly into the spaceship, it just changes your gravity.
Once we are in the ship, we can.
And that is what I'm looking for. You know, that is exactly what I'm looking for. And there's a collider in the spaceship that changes what the gravity is, right? Effectively making the I'm looking at these other videos right now. Why Unreal Engine is sloppy, a hideous slow mess, or something like that. I don't know. Effectively, you hit the collider, and then it'll say, okay, you hit me. I will find the different parts of your entity. Exactly what happens in Unity is that when something, a parent, hits an object that it needs to collide with, or in Roblox too, in any programming language, any object-oriented programming language, and maybe even Minecraft, I don't know, it finds the entity. So usually it would have the parent player, and then in Unity it would have player controller, or in Roblox it would be, it would probably be something different. I don't know what it would be on Roblox, but you have the player controller, and I'm guessing that in that player controller, there will be some sort of setting for gravity, maybe to change the strength of it, maybe not to change the direction, but to change the strength of it. And you could use that and say, okay, well, I would like to change the direction of gravity, or maybe the gravity just works with rotation and the gravity is just local to the player controller, because you're not going to rotate your position without animations unless you really wanted to change the gravity of the player controller. So I don't know, something like that. You change the rotation and it just works perfect, right? But you rotate it based off of the spaceship itself, so you get the rotation of the spaceship and then apply the gravity. Now, when spaceships change their rotation, no matter what axes it is on, you send that data to the entity to change their gravity. I would more or less think about this as adding it to a list. So when you collide with the spaceship, you add it to a list, is how I would think about it. So there'd be a list of players in your spaceship, and every moment that the list affected needs to have their gravity changed, they would. And it would only work like if you have a function inside of your spaceship that changes the movement. Just say, okay, well, if the direction has changed from the previous direction, or the rotation has changed from previously in the next tick, or the render frame, or whatever it would be that Minecraft updates that stuff on, then you change the gravity of the player based off of that. So then in every frame, I would hope that physics is rendered on every render step or a frame or something like that, instead of just ticks, because 20 ticks a second is not that good. There's a difference actually between frames and physics rendering frames. There's a huge difference in Unity and Roblox, I would think, as well, and all game engines. But you use that physics rendering instead of the game rendering and like the game speed or something like that. And based off of those things, you can then get what you need to change the gravity for the player and for all entities in the spaceship, and then you're good. And that code can be local to the spaceship, so it only runs for that specific spaceship. And then when you have multiple spaceships, then it'll just have local code that runs for those multiple spaceships, right? I think that would be perfect. And honestly, like, using that gravity mod, of course, if your spaceship could rotate 90 degrees in every direction, then that gravity mod would be fine. But it's only if that gravity mod can make you rotate a certain direction, and we could just use that code. Instead of having a creative mode item, you could just have a programming code that changes the gravity or uses the module to change the gravity with an attached value. You just change the gravity to this. You'd think, okay, well, the gravity mod has an item to change gravity. I'm sure it's a very lightweight mod. I'm sure it's super lightweight. It's not even that crazy. Because you have 6 items that changes the gravity, and you have a script that functions as the gravity changer. I'm sure they have a value to be inputted, and then there's just a value that's in the anchor that you carry. So the left anchor would probably have a value of, I don't know, 270 degrees, and the right anchor would have a value of 90 degrees. The up anchor would be 180, and the down anchor would be 0. And then the forward and backward would be on the y-axis instead of the x-axis. Or the z, I mean. I don't know. What I do know is that either way, right? It just works. If you can plug in a custom value, like, okay, I want the right anchor, instead of rotating me 90 degrees to 60 degrees, then that would be a great way to test it. If it works like that, if they have like this huge jumbled up code just to have the gravity change from down to right, then I'm not doing something like that. But if they have code that's just like super simple and straightforward, then I'm definitely yoinking that code right out and using it for my world, especially for a collision box. The only other thing I need to figure out is how to make a collision box in Minecraft, and literally how to change the position of a collision box, because then I just change the position and rotation of the collision box to the physics object. Or even better, we can probably make a force field that we can group together and classify as a certain collision object to change the gravity as a block for the physics object. So then when players collide with the object, oh, it's attached to this physics object. Okay, well, it's cool. And that leads one more thing. Well, in this case, there's a collider, but there's creative mode in Minecraft. How do you fly out of the spaceship, or like in spectator mode, how do you fly out of the spaceship without screwing up your gravity? That's a good question. I'm probably not gonna have a spectator mode, but I'm gonna have a creative mode. You don't want to destroy the stuff out of your spaceship, I wouldn't think. That'd be really bad. But what we would do pretty much is use the airlock. And I mean, in this spaceship, there's many different airlocks. I don't know where I can find one, but in their video, to regain your oxygen, you have to go into the airlock. You could change the gravity by going in the airlock, right? It makes sense. Wait a minute. Did they have a system to change their gravity already? Hold on. Okay. I'm going to explain this and turn off my OBS so I don't get copyrighted. Basically, when they need to refill their oxygen, they go up to the spaceship and refill their oxygen. Wait, no, but their liftoff didn't have a custom gravity. He must have oriented it straight down. You know what? Never mind. They don't have a custom gravity. If they did, then they wouldn't have to worry about the orientation when they were going on liftoff. So yeah, something to think about. Forgot about that part. Yeah, I think that this is going to be a good system to implement. I really don't know how, but I think we should definitely think about it. I don't know what to do. I'm very lost on this whole process because it's like it's really weird. I don't really know. Turn all Minecraft blocks into mobs. Okay, what is this? I need to get out of here real quick. But yeah, if we can make a system that's based off of this, I could even have just a static entity or mob or box or whatever it is. Not mob, a box or block, whatever I could do to make this work in the static world. So then when I walk into it, it just changes my gravity to a certain direction. And then based off of that, I can start testing more. So then I can change my gravity 5 degrees every second. So every second I'd be shifting by 5 degrees, or a half of a degree every render step. So then I can visibly see the change happening over time for each render step. So it's smooth, and then base the performance off of that render step. I'm sure it's fine because the physics for a whole object and in space can render at a perfect speed. So changing the gravity of somebody would probably not be that crazy. It's just one value. But I don't know. I don't know what's going on in the background. And the thing is that if it was easy, everybody would have done it. That's such a huge principle in game design and in everything. If it was super easy, everybody would have done it. But it's also the fact that nobody really needs to do it. But it'd be cool. And they made a Minecraft gravity mod for something that would be cool, but no one's ever made it so that you could have a 45-degree gravity or something stupid and random like that. Or every 5 seconds, my gravity changes randomly. And it could be some sideways gravity. And I mean, the thing is, you might just be sliding off of a block, but honestly, it could be much better. I don't know. I want to figure this gravity thing out, and it's going to have to start with installing the gravity mod. We're actually going to do that. Minecraft gravity mod 1.20.1. Everything has to work on 1.20.1. Fabric. How make gravity changer work? Oh no. Oh my god, bro. Yo, I'm just gonna try and install this mod to be like, please, Speed, I need this. My mama's kind of homeless. I live with my dad. I'm trying to help her out. Okay. This is a fork of Gravity API from Fusion Flux that is on Fabric. The Gravity API mod is originally based off the Gravity Changer mod by Gator 10. Without entities argument. Okay. Oh no. Gravity set base direction up. It can be forward, backward, left, right, up, or down. Yeah, see, this is why this is MIT license, so I can use this no matter what. Okay. See, the thing is, I need to like, I need to figure this out, because if there's only 6 directions, then I'm gonna be really mad. Like, this is not good. We're gonna open the stupid Firefox download gravity changer open. That's not what I was looking for. What is this? Why? What is this? New project. Yeah. I don't care. Or can I file manage projects? No, can I open my Firefox download for 1.20.1? I don't understand. Why is this happening? Okay. Let's look it up. Let's look it up. How to customize a mod in IntelliJ. Need. Oh. Oh. Can I get the source code? Yes. Woo! Yeah. I want to download the zip and then save, and then we have to open the mod. Okay. So when we have a JRE, it probably doesn't work, right? Extract to there. Okay. Then we open the project. See, I knew it would crash. Like, I'm an idiot, bro. Firefox downloads. If I select that folder, new window. Provides features that may execute potentially malicious code from this folder. IntelliJ IDEA provides features that may execute potentially malicious code. If you don't trust the source, preview the project in safe mode to only browse its code. Yeah, I want to. That's fine, I don't care. Okay, so here's a README. Okay, whatever. What is this? So we have. Wow, okay. Rotation time, okay. Gravity anchor item. Direction argument type. Gravity changer dot command. Okay. So you have the gravity component. Okay. the gravity is determined by the following. Base gravity, right? Gravity modifier can override base gravity determined from modifier events. Gravity effects can override modified gravity. The result of applying 1 and 2 is called modified gravity and is synced. The result of 3 is current gravity and is not synced. Gravity effects should be applied both on client and server except for remote players. The client player's gravity attributes are separately computed. Other client entities are synced from the server. So they have this, or maybe this right here, fired every tick for every entity, both on client and server. In the event, it can call gravity component apply gravity direction effect with the direction, rotation parameters, and double. And gravity component apply gravity strength. To keep the results between consistent, the event listener should only use synchronized information. In the event, it can read the current gravity direction for use cases like gravity inverting. It requires phase ordering to keep the execution order. The base gravity direction, it equals direction down, but what is the direction object is my thing. There's no, I want to know where direction comes from. They cannot find declaration to go to. I'm just going to hit trust project. File. Sub SDK. Probably just going to use Java. It's still importing the Gradle project, which is we're just going to terminate that real quick. I want to have everything work. New window. Oh shoot. File, manage projects. We're just gonna remove from recent projects list. We're just gonna open gravity changer, new window. Direction argument type. Exception type. And valid direction with the object. It's direction dot class. I don't know. Get direction. I don't understand. Oh. Don't understand. I am so confused. Why? What even is this, bro? Again, I'm so confused because they have all this stuff, you know, like I'm able to go to mod items, I'm able to go to this stuff, but when I go into this guy and I try and find direction, they cannot find a declaration to go to. I don't get this. Net Minecraft core direction. Okay. We're actually gonna net.minecraft.core.direction. Yes, it's actually this exactly. Though it is annoying to have functioning code be flagged with 64 project errors. Yeah, I mean, it's whatever. It's probably like 3.5 people behind this project. I don't know. Can't expect it to be perfect all the time. It's Java. It's freaking Java. Minecraft makes more changes than anybody, so. Oh, this sucks, bro. This actually sucks. I don't know what this is. Public direction, parse, screen reader, throws command syntax, expression. So we have direction dot up, down, north, south, east, and west. This is really stupid because it has a lot of files. Like I said, like I'm not even gonna get into it. I'm not even gonna use this. So I'm probably not gonna use this mod. We can see that the direction is up, down, north, south, east, west. Great. Freaking great. So I'm very confused with this. And I mean, most of these files have to do with like a lot of things. It's again, it's Java, but this kind of means that Minecraft has a set class for directions, Minecraft core direction. And it returns up, down, north, south, east, and west. I don't know what that means. I honestly do not know what that means. So I'm going to use my trusty pal ChatGPT. All right. And we're going to figure this out. I know it won't give me the answer, but I'm going to add, I am looking for a way to change the gravity inside of a spaceship, and I'm running into an issue I cannot find the solution to. I need to type that real quick. The mod that was closest to what I could find, was the Minecraft gravity mod for Forge and its port for Fabric, what I use for modding, in parentheses. However, I'm going to add a semicolon there, not a period. This is so weird typing. I am sorry, guys. However, this only has 6 set directions used by net.minecraft. Where is it? net.minecraft.core. How do I fix this and allow a custom angle to be set based on the physics object the entity is in through a collider or something like that. And we're just going to let ChatGPT think. We're going to be like just throwing out ideas because I know I can't find a solution now, and I'm too dead set on figuring something else out. I've looked on Google for everything, and it's possible in Unity. It's definitely possible, but we need to find a way to allow that functionality to work in Minecraft, because it seems like Minecraft has a blocker that's not allowing us to do that. And if we can't, this sucks if we can't. So I don't know. Short version, you don't fix direction. Thank you. You stop using it for gravity at all and switch to your own per entity gravity vector. Then override movement with mix-ins. The reason all the public gravity mods cap it at 6 directions is that true arbitrary angle gravity is a lot more than change of field. It touches collisions, camera, and movement. Wide direction locks you into 6 directions. Net Minecraft core direction is an enum. At an enum, you can't sensibly add more values at runtime. Designed around the 6 axes aligned directions, the X, Y, and Z axes, used all over vanilla for things that assume down is the negative Y. So if a mod is storing gravity direction as a direction, it's hard-coded to those 6. There's no slight tilt or arbitrary angle available in that direction. The fix, stop using direction to represent gravity at all. Instead, use something like gravity vector. The private vector is the normalized direction times the strength. The gravity could be this dot vector equals vector that normalize set vector. That vector 3D can be any direction, not just the 6 cardinal ones. Store a custom gravity vector per entity. Use a per entity component or capability to remember what gravity applies right now. With Fabric, a common pattern is cardinal components or a simple data tracker. I know cardinal. I'm supposed to use cardinal components in this mod pack. That's what what? Okay, that's nice. I love cardinal components then. This is great. Then for entities. Whenever an entity enters your spaceship's gravity field, you update this component to the ship's current gravity vector. Or even a block entity that describes a bounding box. Okay, well that, yeah. Your spaceship can implement this. Each tick, you look up which gravity zone the entity is in. If it's inside the ship, send the entity's gravity component to gravity direction. Actually applying that gravity, the important bit. Vanilla applies gravity in entity-based tick, living entity, travel. Naming depends on mappings and version. It always adds something like motion plus negative 0.8, numbers vary, blah, blah, blah. Then, and the y-axis, by the way, for the downwards gravity. Then applies drag and handles collisions, assuming gravity is vertical. Insert your custom gravity, you cancel vanilla gravity. Use a mix-in into the method where gravity is applied in many versions. Yarn names is in living entity travel or entity tick movement. Very simplified example, blah, 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 code. Then another injection where vanilla does set velocity, get velocity, add the direction with their enum. Then you can subtract the default gravity, add your custom gravity vector. And conceptually, they have an argument that handles gravity and instead handle it differently in this weird way. Exact injection points will depend on your Minecraft version and mappings, but that's the shape of it. Prevent or cancel Vanilla's gravity step. At velocity plus or equals the gravity vector times strength yourself. The hard part, the collisions and ground with tilted gravity. Here's the honest part. Arbitrary angle gravity is hard in a block game. Vanilla assumes down is always negative y. Axis aligned bounding boxes, AABB, are aligned to world axes. On ground is set when your AABB touches another AABB below you in negative y. Jumping just adds a positive y velocity impulse. If you tilt your gravity 30 degrees, none of that lines up anymore. Ground is no longer simply blocked below your feet. AABB collisions still operate in world XYZ, not in ship local axes. You can end up with players sliding, clipping, or hovering in weird ways. That's exactly why most gravity mods stop at 6 directions. They can orient everything so that down is always on one axis. For truly arbitrary angles, you basically have 2 real options. You can fake it, keep actual collisions in physics in normal negative y world gravity, only rotate the camera and maybe apply a sideways force to simulate tilt. Visually, the player feels like gravity's angle, but collision is still vanilla. This works for small tilts like ships slightly accelerating, but breaks down for walking on walls or ceilings. Or option B, the ship local space, which is the real solution, and it's heavy. For walking on walls and ceilings is exactly what we need because the spaceship could be at any orientation in any direction. Treat your spaceship as a subworld with its own coordinate system. Ship has a transform, position plus rotation. Keep all its blocks in ship local coordinates. For entities inside the ship, convert their world position velocity to ship local coordinates. Run vanilla movement and collisions with gravity in ship local space. Then convert back to world space after the movement is over. Okay. In pseudocode, it would be pretty rough and awful. This is roughly the approach used by big moving ship mods, rotating subworlds. It's a lot of work, but gives you arbitrary ship orientation, gravity down relative to the ship, collisions that by big moving ship mods. Hello? And you're not telling me that this didn't exist? I looked this stuff up. Oh my God. Either way, we're going to finish this before we ask. Hooking gravity to colliders. Yep. For your specific collider. Yep. Divine shown practical recommendation. If your goal is local gravity inside a ship possibly rotating in space, entities walking around inside of it, if it's that, as if that's down, then short term implement per entity movement, a custom gravity vector and movement mix in what I described in sections 2 and 4, and keep gravity directions reasonably close to negative y to avoid too much collision weirdness. And long term is design a ship local coordinate system or lean on an existing moving subworld physics library and treat your ship as a rotated mini world. I am I'm going to, ChatGPT knows from its database that I'm compounding on reaching for the stars. So I'm going to explain it to them to say, hey, look, this is what I'm going to be using. This is what I'm going to be compounding on. I don't know exactly what movement systems they're going to use, but I want to use a movement system that works for most case uses and for the plans that were made for the mod with cardinal components or the create mod or something like that. So everything works and it's fine. Valkyrie and Skies might actually be what I use because I saw in that that guy's build with the planes and stuff like that, and I want to use something that has planes or aviation or water stuff, you know. That's the obvious choice here, so we're gonna go with that. As you know, I am compounding on the RFTS mod, and I want to use systems based on what we talked about. I know you suggested mod for moving ships, but those ones don't have custom gravity on them. If there's a mod that already exists for that purpose, then I would prefer to use that instead of anything else to make it easy. Otherwise, let's take a stab at what would be best for the mod pack that I am working on. This is also for version 1.20.1. And on the fabric, nope, not Dabric, fabric launcher. All right, let's see. ChatGPT is going to be thinking longer for a better answer. Going to be using that Google to search, and ChatGPT can search far faster than I ever could. So hopefully they find answers that are actually relevant compared to my sod of a Google search or 5. Yeah, I don't look up that much. I really don't. I like trying to make it myself, but this is Java. If you can make something by yourself in Java like this, bro, yeah, you're bright. But I'm definitely not. I'm going to finance for college, bro. I don't want to take like 4 different types of calculus. Oh my God, they referenced Reddit. I'm going to get a good answer. All right, short answer. There is a partial off-the-shelf route, but nobody has shipped a clean plug-and-play local ship gravity for Fabric 1.20.1 that does exactly what RFTS wants. The closest stack is Valkyrie and Skies. Valkyrie and Skies for moving ships and physics, VMod as a VS add-on that already exposes a gravity changer tool per ship or structure. I want to look at that link. VMod is an add-on to Valkyrie and Skies as a tool gun, a tool that allows players to make various constraints such as connection, rope, hydraulics, physics rope, and tools such as a gravity changer. Change gravity for a single ship or whole connected structure. What does that mean? Okay, I'll look it up later. Optionally, gravity changer quote tells fork as generic per entity gravity API for Fabric. That's what I have open right now. It is the 1.20.4 version, but 1.20.1 also works. But you still need some glue code if you want to walk around in a sprinting starship or in a spinning starship with an arbitrary gravity frame in the RFTS sense. Let me split it into what existing mods actually give you on Fabric, 2 realistic design paths, and which one I'd like to pick for your mod pack. What exists right now in Fabric 1.20, Valkyrie and Skies 2, Eureka, Clockwork, etc. VS2 is Fabric 121 builds and gives you the subworld rotation walking on ship space you already know you want. What is this? Okay. So Valkyrie and Skies already has that stuff installed inside of it. Add-ons like Eureka ships sit on top and let you build airships, boats out of normal blocks and sail them around. What VS gives regarding gravity has a global gravity vector in its physics config used for ships. You can change that vector to some other vector. That's mainly for ship physics, not for players' personal gravity orientation, like walking on walls. So Valkyrie Skies alone is not a local arbitrary gravity for players. It's more which way is down for ships as rigid bodies. So it changes the gravity for the ships. Okay. Yeah, but what about the entities? So the VMod, the Valkyrie Skies add-on, is the closest pre-made ship gravity control. VMod is an add-on for Valkyrie Skies with a Fabric 121 build. It's a tool gun. Its tool gun includes a gravity changer. Change gravity for a single ship or whole connected structure. We can safely infer from that, unless you override the gravity vector per ship instead of globally. It's shipped and maintained and works on Fabric. It's focused on Valkyrie Skies physics. The docs don't explicitly say it reorients player gravity like a gravity API mod would. So it probably gives you the ship falls that way in the world and maybe some fun tricks, but not full-blown walk on this scene behavior. Still, for reaching for the stars, it's a very useful dev tool and maybe even a player-facing toy. The gravity changer and gravity API, the Quotal fork. This is a Fabric mod specifically meant as a gravity changing API maintained by Quotal for immersive portals. Has a 121 build, which is exactly what we have here. It's designed for per entity gravity. Players mods projectiles with arbitrary directions. That's exactly the sort of API we described in the last message. The caveat, the vanilla style gravity mods in Valkyrie Skies don't automatically cooperate. There's even an open issue showing that another gravity mod, Amethyst Gravity, does nothing when used on Valkyrie Skies ships. Its generator block doesn't flip players on ships at all. That tells us you can't just throw Valkyrie Skies and a random gravity mod together and expect local ship gravity to magically work. So two real design patterns for reaching for the stars. Given all these things, here's how I'd frame your options. The first path is to leverage the gravity API, the fast prototype or more edge cases. The stack, Valkyrie Skies, the RFTS glue mod, which is what we would have to make from scratch, the gravity changer, and the optional V mod in the dev pack so you can poke at ship gravity for testing. The idea is to let Valkyrie Skies handle ship movement, let gravity changer handle entity movement. You just write the layer that says, if entity X is inside ship S, set gravity changer's direction for X to match S's artificial gravity. At a high level, use Valkyrie Skies API to get for any world position which ship, if any, is there and its current rotation and transform. Define your ship's down vector in ship local space, typically 0, -1, 0. Rotate that into world space with the ship's transform and world down. Then call the gravity changes API to set player gravity to player and world down. API naming will differ, but that's the idea. When they leave the ship, you can reset them back to vanilla gravity. The pros, it reuses a battle-tested entity gravity system instead of rewriting movement logic. Fits your system-based reaching for the star design nicely. You can treat gravity as a first class per entity stat and mod it with tech, suits, anomalies, etc. It's also easier to iterate. You can prototype gravity gadgets in a test world with just gravity changer, then wire them into ships later. But there's some cons. Integration complexity. You have two systems, both touching motion orientation. You'll hit weird edge cases. It might teleport between dimensions, transition from ship to planet surface, and VS's own transform versus gravity changers camera rotation. The known compact problems like Amethyst gravity on VS ships show you'll probably have to do some careful mix and ordering and conflict handling. Yikes. Path 2. RFTS native per ship gravity. It's more work, but it's cleaner long term. Here, you shove other gravity mods aside and use VS only for subworld physics and implement your own per entity gravity vector system that is explicitly aware of Valkyrie Skies ship transforms. The stack. Valkyrie Skies 2 ships and subworlds. VLib is handy. It already exposes per dimension ship gravity config and other VS helpers. Though it's more for ship physics than player gravity. Your RFTS gravity module, components, mixes, and zones. And VMod just as a debugging toy if you want manual messing with gravity with the tool gun. The design sketch, the entity state, give every entity a component, the ship gravity frame. For each Valkyrie Skies ship, define its gravity frame. A transform ship to world local down axes, which pretty much that's what the Unity video was. We're creating our own gravity system and then basing it off of that. Only thing is that C# is significantly easier than Java, right? Assignment logic. Ask VS, which ship, if entity, does this entity's position belong to? So this is the same thing as I said with grouping the different entities in an array or a list. What you would do every tick is figure out the ship's gravity or the ship's orientation. So let's just say the ship had been flying in the same rotation for a pretty long time. There's no need for you to change the gravity and set it for every single tick that ship has not been rotating. So you just ask, okay, has the ship rotated differently from the previous value? No? Okay, then we'll just wait until the next value, until the next tick, and then it'll just repeat that process. Instead of going through each entity and saying, have you, or instead of going through each entity and not saying have you or anything like that, it'll literally just be like, I'm going to go through this entity. I'm going to change it even though nothing's changed. I'm going to change you because nothing's changed. I'm going to change you even though nothing's changed. Like, you don't have to change things that haven't changed. It's going to take a lot of performance. It's stupid. It's dumb. That's what simplifying code is. I know this from experience, right? So instead of doing that, you instead, actually, I'm actually going to point this out. This is the same thing I did with the targeting system in Roblox. It's whether you see the enemy, whether you want to use a pathfinder or not, if you have a straight shot to the enemy or if there's a wall in front of you. Like you would shoot a ray to the enemy and know whether or not, okay, if this ray hits, then we're just going to move you in a straight line instead of going through all that computation to make a pathfinder. If there's a wall in front of you, we'll make a pathfinder, sure. And then we'll just move to that pathfinder until there's a straight ray or until you're in my range, right? If you're in the range and there's no wall, I can see you, I shoot. If there's a wall, I pathfind until I can see you and you're in my range. That's exactly what this is. We're literally programming to get to the closest target, the closest available target, and it'll go through all targets and see like which one's the closest and which one is the most viable. Because what if a target comes behind this other guy, then it would shoot that one that's closer to them. Or it could be the one that's strongest. It's based off of a filtering system, right? All of these things can determine whether something's useful or not, but you can also shave off a ton of performance by not considering those things. Like, okay, if you're supposed to be locked onto one target and kill them before killing the other, then you're not going to concern yourself with any other target. So then just don't care about those other targets. Or maybe you do have to care about the other targets, then you do, but only when you have to. Right? The same exact thing. Like, we're not going to use the resources for pathfinding if you can see the target already and it's a straight shot. Just use the move to function in Roblox. It's super simple and efficiently coded. The same principle for this Minecraft code. If the direction of the ship, or the rotation, hasn't changed for I don't even know how long, for even a tick. If it hasn't changed, then there's no point in even setting any new values until the rotation has changed. Then not only can you set the player rotation values, but you can also set the old rotation value to this tick's rotation value. So the next tick, you have the rotation value compared to what has recently changed. So then you're not comparing it to some other value that's irrelevant, right? So you're actually doing something that makes sense. And it's hard to visualize it when I'm explaining it like this and you're just watching this and being like, what is this dude talking about? But it's so much easier to think about when you're in that headspace. I might be making sense to some people though. If anyone's even watching this, I don't even know. But it's the same thing. By the way, Roblox developers would deliberately do anything in their power to make the most spaghetti code known to man. So they could never think about something like performance. They couldn't. They just couldn't. All right. But that's a little bit of a tangent for a different day. Right now we're thinking about Minecraft. This is exactly what I'm talking about. And this is what they did in Unity as well. They changed the they actually just changed the gravity based off of the ship. and it was actually just an object attached to the ship. But I'm sure his code was like, okay, change it for every entity that's there. But it was unreal. It was blueprints. I didn't even know. In Unity, what I would have done is have a collider that adds a list, and then basically runs through that code that I talked about. If the ship has changed direction, then or rotation or whatever, then calculate the gravity, and change it based off of those directions, right? For every entity that's in the list. When you add to the collider, right, and you have the function for the entity that changed the gravity with an easing or whatever, I don't even care, really. It doesn't depend on that much for me. What I care about is the entity in the collider box, like the airlock, for example. The airlock is going to change their gravity. Extremely important. It's not going to be able to happen until you enter the airlock and you press that button that changes the gravity, right? That's what happens. The airlock will be a little bit crooked, but it's there. You change the gravity, it'll pretty much just do everything it needs to do, and then you can get out of the airlock and take off your jetpack because you're finally in the ship. Boom, easy. Now you're based off of the ship's local gravity. Now the ship can move in whatever direction it needs to, and you'll still be attached to the ship. And it fits in the lore, like the gravity object that we'll have in our ship is based off of energy. So pressing a button will allow that energy to go into that airlock. That's how I would think about it. Instead of having like, okay, the moment you enter this radius of the ship, we're just going to change your gravity. Or maybe if you enter the compartment before the airlock, it also changes your gravity. That's lame. That's stupid. We're not going to waste all the energy on an empty compartment. We're going to start using the energy when someone presses the button. It's efficient usage of energy. So that's what I think about it. Another thing that I want to think about is the idea that when you press that button and you get added to a list, when you press the button to detach yourself from the airlock, you do actually remove yourself from the gravity field, which I think is pretty interesting, honestly. Actually, maybe that might not work. You might just have to enter the airlock through a certain part. Like if you go through the door and then it'll just change your gravity from there. I mean, the airlock is a small room anyway, so maybe it's just a collider that won't change your gravity until after you kind of just like leave the airlock compartment. So it might have to be the compartment. I don't know. I have no clue. All right. I will think about those things when I run into it, but for right now, we'll have something. Either way, you'll be entered and exited in a list based off of that event that happened. It's much easier with a button because it's so much more efficient. You don't actually have to make a checker for the collider at every single tick or frame or whatever. I just want it to be based off of when something enters and exits. That's it. That's really it. So yeah, pretty much like that's all the system is. And then it'll have a list of entities. Then you can just call on those entities every single frame that the rotation has changed and be like, okay, you're an entity in my ship. We're going to change your gravity. The thing is that we're going to have MCA, right? That's Minecraft Comes Alive. We're going to have villagers or like entities that are based off of those things in Minecraft or anywhere, in matter of fact. And based off of those things, right, things could happen. You know, we have to change those entities' directions of movements and stuff like that as well. So yeah, it's all going to be complicated and different. And I might not even add something like that until much later. I don't even want to think about something like that, right? Maybe it needs to be a lonely, desolated world with a whole bunch of enemies, but even those enemies have to go through the spaceships. You're not the only one that can have a spaceship, right? There has to be aliens. So that's going to be a huge implementation of the mod as well. It's huge. Not a lot of games, standalone games themselves, have AIs that are like that. But I might have to think about Project Zomboid when they come out with their RimWorld like AI, or maybe use their system already that they had with their survivors, and just think about what that means, because I've got no idea. Anyway, that's aside from the point. What I want to say is that this is what ChatGPT is talking about in this next part. And that's the thoughts and ideas that I could use to apply it, but I don't actually know how to do all that code. I was just on a yapping session. Which ship does this entity's position belong to, right? That list I'm talking about. If none, then just let the vanilla handle the gravity for that entity. So this is by a per entity basis and not a per ship basis. If some ship is there in the entity class, like, okay, you're just calling this for every entity, I'm sure. And for every tick, it'll just go through and say, okay, this entity is on this ship, then just set it to their coordinates and then be fine. I want to do a little bit different, but we'll have to see how we can change that. If some ship S is there, compute world down as above, right? As what they talked about before. Set entity's gravity vector to that, record reference ship ID equals ship.id. Movement and gravity application. Inject into 1.20.1 fabric, living entity movement. Cancel vanilla, add whatever gravity step when has custom gravity is enabled. It's a Boolean pretty much. Instead, add velocity plus the gravity velocity times the strength. Or instead add velocity with gravity velocity times strength. When computing on ground and jump logic, redefine down using gravity velocity. Ground is any collision in the opposite direction of gravity velocity. Jump impulse is in negative gravity velocity direction, not always positive y. You don't have to fully rotate hitboxes for the first step. For reaching for the stars, you can start with the ship interiors aligned to world axes. So gravity is mostly vertical with small tilts for the ship acceleration. Only gradually move towards walk on walls territory once basics are solid. The pros, you'll have full control. Everything is tuned to your dimension and ship lore instead of retrofitted. No dependency on an external gravity mod's update schedule. The clean integration point for all of the other reaching for the star system. The ship artificial gravity generators, the planet's surface gravity that smoothly matches orbital gravity fields, and the special anomalies with weird gravity. The cons, it's a lot more upfront work. Components, mix-ins, collision tweaks, and Valkyrie in the Skies API integration. You'll definitely need to debug tricky cases like stair edges, slime blocks, and vertical movement abilities. Wow, okay. What I'd actually do for your Reaching for the Stars pack, given you're already comfortable thinking in systems, you're targeting Fabric 1.20.1, and Reaching for the Stars is already pretty custom. Toroid planet, weird traversal, etc. I'd treat existing mods as infrastructure and sandbox, but own the gravity system. I don't know what that means. Lock in the ship stack. The Valkyrie in Skies, Eureka, or your favorite ship add-on for building and controlling ships. VLib to configure per dimension ship gravity defaults that match your planets versus space. Install VMod in your dev environment. Use this gravity changer tool to experiment with how ships feel under different gravity vectors and orientations while you're designing the pack. And prototype Reaching for the Stars gravity as its own module. And path 2. Implement per entity gravity, blah, blah, blah. We already did that. Optionally experiment with gravity changer. Path 1 for special content. No. See, this is the weird part. I don't know. Here's what I'm saying. So this would work in this custom space environment where players would be able to physically build and rotate objects based on all right, I pretty much said so this will work customly for not only space but for in your planets. And like as an example, would it work for when turning up for lifting off? If that's the case, great. I would love to take that path and that system that works and have ChatGPT walk me through absolutely everything, and do a little bit of an offline farming session. If not, then I don't care. You know, honestly, it could have been better. I could wait for them to figure it out because they were planning on making that system anyway. But I also wanted to take a stab at it and make it. At the same time, I'm not willing to make it if it takes like a lot of work. That's definitely not good for you. So that's what I want to think about. 14 seconds of thinking, that's pretty fast. Yeah, the whole local frame parenthetic gravity vector approach is exactly what you want for that custom zero-G space sandbox where stuff is rotated arbitrarily and planets where ships tilt up for liftoff, but the interior still feels right, you know? The trick is to stop thinking in terms of world versus player and instead think of terms of reference frames. I don't know what that means, but world versus player is exactly how I would think about it because it's global versus local. Those are completely different things, but reference frames, that's weird. The core idea of reference frames everywhere. Take the design we sketched before and generalize it. The world frame, the raw Minecraft coordinates, which is what vanilla cares about. Environment and object frames, planets, ships, stations, asteroids, etc. Each has a transform, local to world, a local down, entity frame attachment, and every entity carries current frame ID and gravity, velocity, and world space. Everything you care about movement, gravity, building, placement is done relative to the attached frame, then mapped to world coordinates. So the answer is, does this work in space and on planets? Is, if you can model the planet and the ship as frames, yes. Same system, different frames. So what they're telling me is basically make a separate frame, a coordinate frame for the ship. So the world versus player, it's the global versus local. The only thing local is the object itself. It's local to that object, local to the ship, local to the space station, you know. It'll have a coordinate frame that's local to them. So you just add that coordinate frame to them and then make the gravity system based off of that coordinate frame in that world that was created. Now, it's probably not going to have anything around it, but it's just going to be there. Now, global rules for that dimension, or to the zero-G space sandbox, building and rotation locally. In your space dimension, you can go full sandbox like this. The global rules for that dimension, world gravity is 0 or extremely small. No default behavior if an entity has a frame. The frames you might have: space station frame, big structure, drifting, rotating, ship frame, player-made ships that can translate and rotate in the via subworlds, an asteroid frame if you want tiny local gravity around rocks, free space frame, special case, no gravity, but you can either keep a stable up for UI sanity or let the player spin freely, more realistic, more disorienting. Now, we could do both of those. I don't really care. How building based on local rotation works. When a player, actually, first off, if we want to go back to that spinning thing, we can also turn the spinning off if we want to orient to a certain direction. So we don't have to go through the crazy spinning thing or whatever. That would make absolutely no sense. How building based on local rotation, quote unquote, works. When a player is attached to frame F, you know F's transform is local instead of to world in rotation and translation. You know the player's orientation relative to that frame, their look vector, etc. When they place a block, compute the target position and face in frame space, like a regular Minecraft, but in local coordinates. Transform that position to world space and place the block at that world coordinate. From the player's point of view, the ship or station might be rotated 45 degrees relative to world axes, but forward, back, left, right, up, and down for building all follow the local frame and not the world. So it would be rotated and built based off of that local frame instead of the world frame. That's what you meant by physically build and rotate objects based on their local rotation. You're basically doing what VS already does for ships, but you're also making gravity and controls respect that frame. So Valkyrie in Skies already allows you to do these things in real time, but you want gravity and stuff that works with that frame. Planets standing, launching, rotating for liftoff. Now imagine a planned dimension, planet surface as a frame. For your reaching for the stars planet, toward sphere, whatever, the planet frame defines a down direction at each point, radial towards center or approximated, a transform from planet local coordinates to world coordinates. Entities walking on the ground are attached to planet frame. Everything feels like normal gravity, just maybe wrapped or curved. When you enter a ship, however, you board the ship and the game switches your attachment from planet frame to ship frame. It sets the gravity velocity using the ship's local down, transformed into world space. Right now, while landed, the ship is aligned to the ground, so the ship's local down would equal the planet's down. You won't notice a change. When you rotate up for liftoff, now the ship starts a pitch maneuver. The ship's frame rotates relative to the planet and world. The planet's down is still towards the ground, but your entity is attached to a ship frame, so your gravity velocity follows the ship, not the planet. From the planer's point of view, the floor stays the floor. The windows show the horizon tilting and the planet falling away. Controls and jump directions remain consistent with the interior. From the system's point of view, this is trivial. For each tick, pseudocode, pretty much. The ship rotation changes due to physics. The ship local down is still 0, -1, 0. The world down equals ship rotation times the ship local down. The entity gravity velocity will equal world down. You can attach that to the ship. If you step outside the ship mid-air, you detach from the ship frame, reattach to the relevant frame, the planet if you're still in its influence, or a free space frame if you're outside everything, and your gravity velocity now comes from that frame instead. How this plays in a pure 0G sandbox. You can even have areas that are true 0G. The frame's gravity vector length equals 0, but you still keep a transform for orientation. So inside a derelict station with no power, and which is 0 gravity, the local up for the UI and camera if you want it. Inside a powered ship, artificial gravity, non-zero gravity velocity. Outside everything, open space is free floating, no gravity, orientation might drift with player rotation, and you can blend between them. The ship turns off gravity, gradually shrink gravity velocity length to 0 over a few seconds. Heading into a gravity well, gradually interpolate player's frame from ship to planet as you disembark or enter a gravity zone. The too long didn't read implementation wise. Everything we talked about in the last answer still works, just with a bit of structure, but we did read it. And that's pretty much covering everything that we talked about. So you can start coding. Reaching for the star's gravity is a self-contained module. Okay, great. Blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Nice. So I'm pretty much thinking about it as a local ship frame instead of something that's relative to the world. It's not world versus player. It's a local frame. So you have the opportunity and the ability to create a different frame. However, what this doesn't create a new frame. It just changes the gravity based off of the direction. And does everything outside of what you could do for the actual mod itself. So if we want to use Valkyrie and Skies, then we could do that. Wow, this is a 2-hour stream, huh? So if we want to use Valkyrie and Skies, for example, and use that to make our system work, then great, sure, we can do that. If not, we can do something else. I don't know what they use in their game, but they have a physics object that is made in Janus that allows the ship to move in the world, right? But it's its own local thing. It has its own local rotation, everything like that. All you need to do is make a frame that attaches to that local rotation, and then just make the player's gravity local to that frame. It actually just attaches once, and then the rest of it's handled. I would think, cross your fingers and put a cherry on top of your head, because let's hope that happens. If that's not the case, then this sucks. Too many tryhards on Java. Like, come on, bro. Seriously. Might just have to change the bedrock to get C. No, but let's be serious. Let's be serious. I would never use bedrock, first off. But second off, actually, it's more like bedrock, guys. Whatever. Second, I think I just lost my train of thought. God dang it, dude. I shouldn't use God's name in vain. I apologize. I know I'm a Christian and everything like that. I don't think I've ever talked about that before, but I am so off track right now. I need to end stream. I need to go to bed. That's what I need to do. But the second off here is that we have some work to do. I don't know if they're going to do it or not, so I'm going to do it. I think I might think about that. I might not. I do need to get through the Cap and Joe tutorial for Java modding, and I'm probably just going to go through every video. It's going to be a little bit. It's crazy, but it's going to be a little bit. I'm going to go through all those videos to get sense in Java, and I'll probably do that over my winter break, honestly, and I will get some new components for my computer. Probably get my loans paid off if I could. If I can't, then I won't be working on this mod for a long time if I can't get my loan paid off, because I need to go to college next semester. If I don't, then there's a lot of things that go wrong in my life. And yeah, I just need to go to college next semester. Like, come on. But outside of that, like, I should be getting going at least soon. If not soon, then in that next semester, I will still keep going. You know, it's not too much of a constraint, right? I've got options, I've got availabilities, but when I do eventually work on this mod again and like go through that full tutorial of learning Java, I can go through the API, at least if I have knowledge of APIs and how they work, and base my knowledge off of stuff like that. Now, I have very little knowledge about Java itself, but from that knowledge, I can understand where directories come from and like where files are and what they mean, you know, stuff like that, the setters and getters and stuff like that. I've learned a lot from that Java class that I took in my computer science class, even though I did use Google for a lot of it, and Java sucked. It was really bad. It was really awful. I didn't know what try and catch did until today, actually. But the way Java works is so different from any other programming language, and it's so inconvenient. It's like you're speaking a completely different language. It really is. So that's also why learning Java is so critical. Like, it is actually genius works and stuff like that. It's the calculus to math, you know. It's hard for no reason, and it's better than all the other math that you do, but it's much more convenient for you to use all that other math in your life than calculus. But calculus does everything, and it does it in it's a straightforward and efficient process to get everything done, and it's effective. Only catch is that calculus is not actually that efficient. All the other math is way more efficient. But I want you to use that parable or that figure of speech as a definer for Java because it's difficult. It's supposed to be more difficult, but it at least it's not like COBOL or like x64 or something like that. Like the stuff that your operating systems are made out of. The ones that are in letters and numbers and hexadecimal instead of actual code, you know. Java is as close to insanity as it gets, but imagine coding in COBOL. That would be ridiculous. But anyway, I'm out. I think I'm going to stop the stream. I don't really have much I can do right now, and it is literally about to turn night. I need to sleep. I also need to get an English essay done, so cut me off some slack, please. I'll take my microphone off real quick, give my final thoughts, and then I'll be out of here because honestly, like, this was a very complicated project to work on and everything. And like honestly, I think the takeaway for this is that oh shoot, man, I don't know what to say. The takeaway from this is that it's going to take a lot of work, is what I'm trying to say. And something like that is way too advanced. I did want to think about it, though. That is something that's been fresh on my mind that I wanted to think about. Am I burning myself out from this? I don't know. I really do want to work on it because every single time I look at that project, I'm fascinated and amazed by how much it could be. And I'm using motivation right now for the pack itself without ever playing it. It's so much different when you actually play it for the first time. And if I put in all this work to customize a mod pack, I would want to play it. But this is extremely important because if we cannot change the rotation of the players, then that's a critical thing. That's a critical aspect of this that should make a lot of sense. A gravity field inside of a spaceship is critical in a game like this. So I just want to make sure that we also keep that in mind because that would be critical for a game like mine, especially for the space systems and the systems that we would have for the planet, you know, the planet itself. Imagine not being able to walk into your spaceship and like, or even walk out of it and do other things while it's still flying. Like if you're in the easier modes that I talked about that allow you to press a button and then let it do it automatically, why can't you walk around and do other things or like place different furniture blocks or something of the sort like that? Like it's the interior of the ship. Of course you can place blocks and stuff, or maybe something like that. I just don't want you to be able to break the outline ones or place place stuff outside of the ship itself because that's kind of it's kind of bad, or like break the outside parts of it that would help. But even with the object, there is an object class itself because we would be able to get the rendering system off of it, and there is an object class because it has its own vector of rotation and movement that is separate from everything else, and they attach all the stuff together into a certain class. So if I use Valkyrie and Skies, for example, to create the ships or something like that, then I just have to excuse me. Excuse me. Whew. Sorry about that. I would just have to get the rotation that is called in the class, and I'm sure there most definitely has to be a get a rotation, because if you get a velocity from something certain, like a plane, for example, you're most definitely going to need to use a rotation. So yeah, we got it figured out. I think at the end of the day, it's all just going to depend on stuff like that. I don't know what else it would be, but I hope that makes sense. I hope that works. And more or less, if I use their modules and stuff like that, I can pretty much fill in the gaps, connect the dots. When thinking about like items or entities or something like that, it's gonna have to be different. I'm gonna have to find out a ton of different ways of different things pretty much to use for the mods itself. I really don't know. I want to have different rocks, different types of dirt, different types of ores in the rocks and the dirt and stuff like that. a whole bunch of different things, you know, like if we're finding ores in different dirts or rocks, um, things would make sense. Like there's going to be a whole bunch of custom planets with different materials inside of them. I would want it to be based off of real world stuff, but Minecraft in it of itself is based off of Earth, and it's nothing like realistic. It's nothing like realism. Our new Earth will be based off of a realism that's much deeper than that, but it would also have Minecraft logic and stuff like that, because I want this to be a closer Minecraft Earth. Like this is Minecraft that was colonized and changed based off of certain factors. It was colonized by players like you, in the sense of the world that you spawn in itself, that have flown off and or died off pretty much from themselves, from mutually assured destruction. You might learn more about the story as time goes on or with more people. Who knows, really? I mean, Zomboid lore also goes deep. I might base it off of Zomboid. Who knows? I could use some parts of that game, like their new update with the lore and stuff like that with the newspapers. Wow. Or like being able to add books that have different types of text in them that gives lore, and it's a very small chance of seeing something like that. Like still, there's something out there that exists that you could build a society with Minecraft and with different players, especially in that sense. But thinking that the world was destroyed would make sense. And maybe there's other things as well. Like in the Minecraft world, one of the biggest signs of griefing was lava casts. Now, you could just have some lava casts be spawned throughout the world, and then you could run up on one and be like, oh, that's a lava cast. So I want this to be very Minecraft based and Minecraft centered. Make it look like it was Minecraft that happened and stuff like that, but make it also full of like explosions or like of gas or something like that. And possibly in the expert mode, we could have like different zones, like radiation zones or something like that inside of the Earth area, so it makes sense like what's happening. Though I do also want to point out that I would have stuff like that in other space station systems, so it's already going to exist. It's not like I'm going to make a system specifically for Earth. It's going to exist in other places as well, especially space. So just something to think about. Otherwise, I have nothing else. The only other thing I'm thinking about is like how stuff would work when you're damaging a space station from a spaceship. Like how would systems be damaged? Do we want to take a realistic approach, or do we want to just gamify it? More likely than not, I'm going to gamify it. I'm not going to make like damaged blocks or something like that based off of something stupid, you know. Now, if you were in like Interstellar and you have like you know that scene with the rotating spaceship that's flying around, has a whole bunch of debris that's soaring away. Like when a spaceship gets damaged, it's brittle. It'll look like that. But in our game, we want a spaceship that might have like a static health, and then when it dies, it'll have a little bit of a sequence of evacuation with escape pods or something like that, and then it explodes. All right, if it doesn't have escape pods, then rip, you know, everything dies. And that's gonna be a part of the game. Maybe, I don't know. You want to effectively defend the stuff that you have, so then it doesn't like die. You know, that would be pretty optimal. And having like turrets or shields or something like that is crucial. Or like traps in the asteroid belt or something of this sort. You know, there could be a whole bunch of ways of doing things in the Minecraft world that would make a lot of sense. And maybe we might have a warping system that kind of just warps you based off of what's going on in the world. If you go into empty space on a certain part of the map in those coordinates, I don't see why you can't just like teleport there, or use the warp system to go to any custom spot. The one thing that I ran into while playing, I'm playing, what's this called? Or yeah, what is it called? I cannot remember for the life of me. I remember when playing, shoot, I do not remember. Holy crap, dude. Why do I not remember this? I'm an idiot. What is the name called? It's Starscape, I think, from Roblox. I don't know. If that's the game, great. It was made by the Apocalypse Rising 2 developers, or I don't know, somewhere in that game line. It might be the second one, might be the first. I don't know. What I do know, yeah, I think it is Starscape. I don't have the energy to look it up. Either way, I know that when you teleported to different planets, or like went to a planet's asteroid belt or something like that, you just went to that planet's asteroid belt and then was just there, you know. But you couldn't really go outside of a certain bound because it wouldn't work. In Minecraft, on the other hand, let's totally do that. Yeah, let's totally give freedom for the player to go into space anywhere. Here's one thing though. If a space station gets caught in a planet's orbit, we're just going to make a collider. It's not going to be realistic, but I don't care. I really do not care. It's not going to break immersion at all. It might. I have no idea. What I care about, though, is that when making a space station, you want the first off, you'll have your spaceship be rotating in a clockwise direction. I don't think there's a lot of planets that rotate in the opposite direction. There could be. I don't know. I'm an idiot. And if that's the case, and they're rotating opposite or clockwise, counterclockwise directions, anything like that, then let's figure that out. Really, I want to think about that. But if it's the case where there is a clockwise rotating planet, then I would like to see that. I don't think there is anything like that in our solar system, but I'll research it. I'll look it up and like for real, like deep dive, get a deep dive on everything with local and world rotations or whatever. I don't know. I don't care. What I do care about though is if we have like a space station that is freely rotating in space and then it gets into a planet's orbit, all it'll do is just go to the planet's orbit, pretty much. It'll be on like the outskirts of the planet's orbit and then whatever, or based off of like wherever it is. I don't know how it's going to work. We'll figure it out. Maybe it'll just be put in a random place in the planet's orbit, like in the outside of it, in the top 75%, and then you have to like try and boost it out a little bit to get it back to real space. But if you have a space station that's really close to a planet orbit, then you've made the mistake of putting the space station close to the planet orbit anyway, so why, you know? But it is cool. The only thing that would not work in that case is elliptical orbits. So like if you have a space station that's flying really fast into like a planet's path, then of course it would crash into the planet and it wouldn't exist as a space station anymore. But we're probably gonna say like there's automatic systems, and it might be part of your logs or something like that. Like you spawn into the world again and things rotate, so it's cool, it's whatever. But there will be rotations. I want there to be rotations in this game, based off of real facts in the life of space, you know, like your velocities will be the same or something like that. But what if you log off and log back in at a certain time? What if Minecraft can tell the time that you've logged off and on into, and then it changes the rotations based off of that time? It wouldn't do a lot, but it would be a really noticeable and nice feature. Like, especially if you played the world for a long time, your scenery would change. That's realism. That's the realism and immersion that I want you to experience. Like over time, this world will change and you're going to see a noticeable difference compared to where you started. And it would just feel more real. You wouldn't notice it in real time, but if you had like a time lapse of the time that you slept, then sure, you might be able to notice it, but it would also work with like the days as well.
The thing is that the planet in Minecraft rotates every 24 minutes, which sucks, but I want our planet to rotate per day. Like, I'm not going to give a 24-hour day to Minecraft, right? That would be kind of ridiculous, but I don't know. At the same time, I don't know what to think about or what to say. I've got no idea. I'm gonna have to think about that, really. There's a lot of things to think about. Right, I do want the day-night cycle to pair with the planet itself, so making it rotate every 20 minutes. It just seems really unrealistic. It really does. I don't see how that would work in our case, because I want the rotations of planets to be based off of days, but 365 Earth days would make one Earth year, and it would make the rotations like really, it would make them really fast. Actually, it won't be like lightning speed, but you'll notice it like per day. But per day is 20 minutes, and one day is 1/365th around the sun. It's gonna be a lot in world space, but everything's also scaled down. The only other thing that I was thinking about is the fact that, like, if I'm getting a 20K by something thousand texture, maybe it's also 20K. I don't know. If we're getting a texture like that to base our sphere around, and make something of it, right? For each chunk being colored a certain thing, then it would be a really small planet. Trying to land on it is actually not gonna be that crazy at all. 1,000 blocks is 1/20th of the whole planet, so the rotation would be 1/20th of 360, which is, what is it called? For 1,000 blocks, you would rotate. It's 1/20th of 360. 1/10 is 36, so 1/20th is 18. So you'd rotate by 18 degrees. So every 100 blocks is 1.8 degrees. Oh, that doesn't seem bad at all. That really doesn't seem that awful. Okay. Well, that's weird, I guess. But then how high would the sky be in a 20,000 meter by 20,000 meter planet? How high would the sky be? Who knows? What I do know, though, is that the Antarctic and the Arctic would appear to be huge, but in the Taurid planet, I mean, in surface area, it's freaking large, dude. Like, let's make that a fact. It is large, but in reality, it's in volume. It's not crazy at all. Is what the spherical side would look at. But honestly, like, it all just depends. You know, it could depend on a lot of different factors, a lot of different things. I could make Minecraft into Earth on the 1-to-1 scale and then warp it onto a sphere, and it would look exactly like Earth. Maybe. I don't know. But what I do know is that, like, we can figure that out, and I'll make that my test planet, actually, the world Earth. But different dimensions would exist for different planets. If we can make something that renders that image, then the landing procedure would be so much easier to do. I could even use the planet rendering itself as a sort of a sort of pipeline for this existing system to be, because I know in Janus it's based off of that same system. It actually shows the whole universe. It's really weird, but it works, and you're on Janus. So we use that same rendering pipeline, just have the camera, instead of being in this custom position, it's just on Janus, on this specific part of Janus. You can actually use the same code to render Janus. Doesn't that sound weird, bro? But the thing is, like, oh, you can also render the planet's surface of Janus as you're walking on it in the render pipeline. Yo, yo, that is, yo. All right, we're going crazy. We're going crazy. There's a lot to think about, as you can see. Sorry about the magnet, by the way. A lot of stuff to think about. I don't have the actual rendering part down, and I'm probably not going to for a long time. But if we can get that, if we can get that planet itself, that texture, the rest of its history. Like, we can figure out the rest of that rendering cool stuff. But if we can get the planet texture based off of the world, that's another, like, that's a crazy thing. That would be super immersive. Instead of being able to spawn in the same location in Janus, they said that it was a rush project, but like, how immersive would it be to land on this specific part of the planet? Like, you have to wait a few minutes for the space station to rotate to the right position on the planet. So then when you try and land on it, you actually get to the planet, you know, to the place that you're looking for. And if you miscalculate it, you're only like a few hundred blocks off or something like that too, or maybe more. I have no idea. All I know is that this could be crazy. It's 20,000 blocks that is rotated every 20 minutes, which is super interesting. But we'll have to see how that works. But honestly, like, this is gonna be amazing. I feel like this is gonna be a super immersive and amazing mod. I might play test it a little bit too much, but who knows? Like, this could actually be like crazy. And I want to make sure I also have like sealed blocks as well. What Minecraft does with their zinc lining, or the crate mod does to make their foundations with zinc or the andesite or whatever. I can't remember what it's called. I'll have to tell you guys about it later. We can do the same thing for sealed blocks and then use that in building the spaceship. Like, or not just the spaceship, but the space station. You can only use like sealed blocks to build. You literally cannot use other blocks until after there's a registered place, because it'll just separate and lose itself in space, or it won't be bound anymore. Like, that's the thing, that's the concern. Like, you cannot place this here, or you shouldn't place that there, or something like that, just to keep space clean, you know, just to make sure, right? Space is quite dirty from us humans though, so who knows. Otherwise, yeah, I've got pretty much nothing else. Yeah, we're just gonna have to see what happens. At the end of the day, everyone was rushed off, and this event led us to run away. So space being dirty wouldn't really correlate. You know, I don't think it would make sense. It could. I don't think it would. But either way, we'll just have to think about it. You know, we'll just have to think about everything and go from there. So, yeah. Honestly, I think we've got it. I'm gonna end stream. I've spent half an hour talking about this as well. I'm excited. I'm eager about this whole project, and I hope it really goes well with these next few days, where I can just start learning about Java, and Cardinal Components API actually fits with the stuff that we're coding right now. So it's gonna be great, honestly. Like, yeah, I think it'll be amazing. Otherwise, I'm out of here. So I will see y'all later.